once told us that youth was everything, that beauty belonged only to the young. But what if they were wrong? What if every wrinkle, every gray strand of hair, every slow step was not a sign of fading, but of deepening? What if aging was beautiful? The story opens in the small town of Willow Creek, a place where life no longer runs on the frantic schedule of the modern world. The streets are lined with oak trees, older than most of the people who walk beneath them, their branches heavy with time. Morning light breaks gently across tidy porches, and in the silence, the sound of wind chimes plays like a forgotten song. Margaret, 78 years old, sits by her window with a porcelain teacup that once belonged to her mother. Her hands tremble slightly as she lifts it, and yet those same hands once cradled newborns, held onto her husband's arm at their wedding, and planted flowers that still bloom outside her home. To a stranger, the wrinkles etched across her skin may look like fragility. To Margaret, they are scripture, lines that record the battles fought, the laughter shared, the tears shed in midnight kitchens. She remembers the day she retired, 20 years ago, from her job at the library. She thought the silence would crush her. She thought without work, without the rush of responsibility, she would vanish into invisibility. Society has a cruel way of treating the elderly, as if their purpose ends when their productivity does. For a time, she believed it. She felt herself fading, walking past mirrors quickly, afraid of the reflection. But something unexpected happened. Without the rush of work, without the pressure to prove herself, Margaret began to see life differently. She noticed the way sunlight rested on her neighbor's roses. She learned that silence was not emptiness, but space. A space to hear her own thoughts, her own heart. She discovered that aging was not a descent, but an ascent into another kind of living. She remembers her husband, William, who passed away 15 years ago. For a long time, grief made her believe that her best years had ended. She would sit at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair, waiting for footsteps that would never come. Yet over the years, her grief softened into something gentler. Now, when she thinks of William, she does not only feel pain, she feels gratitude. Gratitude that she had someone to miss, someone to love so fiercely that his absence still leaves echoes in every room. Margaret often watches the young families in her neighborhood. She sees the parents hurrying, juggling work, bills, schedules. She smiles, remembering when life felt like a race she couldn't afford to lose. She wishes she could tell them, "Slow down. Don't be afraid of time. One day you'll see. Aging does not steal beauty, it reveals it. Every wrinkle is a chapter, every gray hair a stanza, every memory a verse in the poem of existence." She understands this now. Youth is about beginnings, but old age is about understanding. As she gazes at the sunrise, the golden light spills across her face, and for the first time in years, she doesn't feel invisible. She feels luminous, not in the way magazines define beauty, but in the way eternity defines it. She whispers softly to herself, a truth she wishes the whole world could hear. "I have not grown old. I have grown into myself." And somewhere, in the gentle silence of Willow Creek, the morning chimes continue their song, carrying Margaret's truth across the town. That aging is not the end of beauty, but its purest form. They say age is a thief, stealing strength, stealing beauty, stealing time. But what if the years do not take? They give. What if every passing season places a gift quietly in our hands, waiting for us to notice? The The story shifts from Margaret's quiet window to the park across town. There, every morning, 90-year-old Thomas walks slowly with a cane. His back is bent, his steps uneven, but his eyes, still sharp, still curious, follow the world like a man who has seen too much to look away. Once, Thomas was a carpenter. His hands, now curled and weak, once carved staircases and built homes that still stand tall in Willow Creek. He remembers the smell of fresh cut wood, the sound of saws, the thrill of creating something that would outlive him. He misses those days, but not with bitterness. Instead, he feels pride. My hands may have slowed, but the houses I built still hold families. My life left marks that did not vanish. Young people sometimes pass by him on their way to work, earbuds in, eyes glued to their screens. They walk faster than Thomas ever could now, but what they don't know is that while they rush toward a future, he holds the past in his pocket like a folded letter. He remembers a world before computers, before cell phones, when neighbors knew each other's names and children played until dusk in the streets. He carries those memories like treasures, and though his pace is slow, his heart walks through decades with ease. Sometimes he stops to watch the children in the park. Their laughter rings out, wild and free, and he smiles. He knows he will never run again. He will never climb trees or chase a ball across the grass. But he does not grieve. Instead, he whispers to himself, "Let them run. Let them have their turn. I had mine." Thomas lives alone now. His wife, Eleanor, passed away years ago, and his children live in other states. The house is quiet, but not empty. The walls are lined with photo frames, weddings, birthdays, moments frozen in time. Each picture is a reminder. Yes, there was joy. Yes, there was love. Yes, there was life. On lonely nights when the silence feels too heavy, Thomas sits in his chair and speaks aloud to Eleanor. He tells her about the weather, about the children he saw in the park, about the dream he had last night. To anyone else, it would seem strange, an old man talking to a ghost. But Thomas knows better. Age has taught him that love never disappears. It changes shape, but it stays. And perhaps this is the greatest gift of aging, the ability to see what really remains. The young chase careers, money, reputation. Thomas once did too. But at 90, when almost everything has been taken away, youth, strength, speed, he sees what cannot be taken: love, memory, meaning. As the sun sets over the park, Thomas leans on his cane and whispers, not to anyone in particular, but to the wind itself. Aging is not about losing time. It is about learning what time was truly worth. The camera of our imagination lingers on him as he walks slowly out of the park, his silhouette outlined by the fading golden light. To the hurried world, he is just an old man moving too slowly. But in truth, he is something greater, a living archive of joy, sorrow, endurance, and love. They told her that with age, passion fades, that creativity belongs to the young. But she proved them wrong. For some souls, the fire does not die. It only burns brighter in the quiet years. The story now turns to Evelyn, 85 years old, who once painted canvases that hung in galleries across the state. Today, her small studio sits at the end of Willow Creek's Main Street. The walls are cluttered with canvases, some unfinished, some dripping with color, and brushes stand upright in jars like soldiers waiting for orders. Her hands tremble when she paints now, and her vision blurs if she stares too long. But Evelyn does not curse her body. She adapts. She lets the trembling brushstrokes flow into the canvas, believing that imperfection is not failure, it is style. The young may paint with precision, but Evelyn paints with memory. Every stroke holds decades of lived experience. Every color carries an emotion that only time could teach. People often tell her, "You're too old to paint, you should rest." She smiles gently, refusing to argue, for she knows a truth they do not. The soul does not retire. Creativity does not obey calendars, nor does passion bow to birthdays. If anything, her art has become deeper. Where once she painted landscapes to impress critics, now she paints to soothe her own heart. One afternoon, a group of school children visit her studio with their teacher. They stare at her wrinkled face, the tremor in her hand, and whisper among themselves. Then Evelyn lifts a canvas, a breathtaking painting of a sunrise over the ocean, waves breaking like glass, light spilling like gold. The children fall silent. They do not see an old woman anymore. They see an artist, timeless and powerful. After they leave, Evelyn sits in her chair and gazes at the canvas. She remembers being told at 40, "Your best years are behind you." She remembers being told at 60, "It's too late to start something new." Yet here she is, still painting, still creating beauty out of nothing but pigment and light. She thinks of her late brother, who always said, "Art belongs to the young." If only he could see her now, how the years did not silence her, but gave her a richer palette, shades of sorrow and joy that youth cannot capture. Age did not steal her colors, it gave her new ones. And so Evelyn whispers to herself, with a voice soft but steady. Aging is not the fading of art, it is the moment the soul learns to paint in its truest colors. The camera of our minds pulls back, Evelyn sitting in her cluttered studio, surrounded by hundreds of canvases, her small frame illuminated by the late afternoon sun. Outside, the world rushes past. Inside, an old woman creates beauty that will outlast her. They said old age was loneliness, but sometimes, in the silence of years, the heart discovers a new kind of love. A love that does not fade, a love that does not rush, a love that simply remains. This part of our story belongs to Harold, a retired school teacher now in his late 80s. For 40 years, he stood in front of chalkboards, teaching generations of children how to read, how to write, how to believe in themselves. To most of his students, he was Mr. Harper, the strict teacher with the kind eyes. To him, those years were his calling, his gift to the world. Now the chalkboards are gone, the classroom lights are off, and Harold spends his days in a small wooden house filled with books. The shelves bend under the weight of stories, many of them gifts from former students who never forgot him. Each spine carries a memory. The girl who became a lawyer, the boy who once doubted himself but grew into a doctor, the quiet child who found her voice in poetry. Harold has no children of his own, but in truth, he raised hundreds. His wife, Clara, passed away 7 years ago. Since then, evenings have been the hardest. The house, once filled with laughter, now settles into a silence that feels too wide. Sometimes he still sets the table for two, out of habit, before realizing. And in those moments, grief creeps back like a shadow. But then, he remembers. He remembers Clara's laughter, sharp and contagious. He remembers her hands, always warm even in the coldest winters. He remembers the way she looked at him when he forgot his words during their wedding vows, and how she whispered, "It's okay, I know your heart." These memories do not leave him empty. They leave him full, full of gratitude, full of love that time cannot erase. Every Friday, Harold receives letters, handwritten in shaky or rushed handwriting, from his former students. Some are from middle-aged adults now raising their own children, thanking him for believing in them. Some are from grandchildren of students he once taught, telling him that their parents still remember his words. He keeps each letter in a wooden box by his bed. On lonely nights, he opens the box and reads them aloud, as if the voices of the children he once guided are still in the room. The world may think he is forgotten. The truth is, he is remembered in hundreds of lives, in the choices they made, in the people they became. And so, as the evening sun casts long shadows across his living room, Harold closes his eyes and whispers, "Aging is not the end of love. It is the proof that love lasts longer than we do." The image fades. An old man sitting in a quiet room, surrounded by letters, his heart heavy yet full, his life echoing in the lives of countless others. The world outside rushes by, but within these four walls lives a truth. Aging is not loneliness when you have loved deeply. They said age breaks you, but sometimes those who have lived through the worst storms are the ones who carry the deepest strength. Aging is not weakness. It is the proof of survival. This part of the story belongs to Samuel, 92 years old, a veteran who once saw the world not in sunsets and gardens, but in battlefields and broken cities. His memories are not soft. They are sharp, heavy, and stained with loss. Yet as he sits on his porch today with a wool blanket over his knees, his eyes are steady, his breath calm, as if the wars outside him have long ended, and the war inside him has finally found peace. Samuel grew up during the Great Depression. Hunger was his first teacher. Then came the war. At 18, he carried a rifle across foreign soil, not because he wanted glory, but because his country called. He still remembers the sound of gunfire at night, the cries of men calling for their mothers, the silence of friends who would never wake again. For decades after, he carried those ghosts with him, silent companions in the back of his mind. When he returned home, the world wanted him to forget, to move on, to marry, to work, to live as if the war never happened. And he did. He built a life, married a kind woman named Helen, raised 2 children, worked in a factory until his hands grew stiff. But in the quiet hours of the night, when the world was still, the memories returned. Faces of fallen friends, the weight of choices no 18-year-old should ever make. Now, in old age, Samuel has learned not to fight those memories. He sits with them. He lets them visit, but he no longer lets them rule him. He tells his grandchildren stories, not of blood and violence, but of resilience, of loyalty, of the way men held each other in the darkest hours and refused to let go. War taught me cruelty, he tells them, but it also taught me the value of peace. The neighbors see only an old man with a cane. They do not know the storms he carried inside him, but Samuel knows, and instead of bitterness, he feels gratitude. Gratitude that he lived long enough to see his grandchildren run across his yard, long enough to plant tomatoes in his garden, long enough to hear laughter instead of sirens. As the evening sky turns crimson, Samuel looks at his wrinkled hands, hands that once held weapons, now holding nothing but a cup of tea. And with a trembling but proud voice, he whispers, "Aging is not about what time took from me. It is about what time allowed me to keep, my family, my peace, my soul." The camera of the imagination pulls back. Samuel sitting quietly on his porch, the garden alive with children's laughter. Behind his eyes, a lifetime of storms. Around him, the calm of a man who endured. And in that silence, his very presence tells the truth. Aging is not fragility. It is endurance wrapped in tenderness. They told her that age would leave her empty. But what they never said is that the heart of an old woman can still carry enough love to light 1,000 lives, even when everyone she loved is gone. This chapter belongs to Rose, 94 years old, who lives in a quiet nursing home at the edge of Willow Creek. Her room is small, just a bed, a nightstand, and a window that looks out onto a garden where roses bloom each summer. Most of her friends are gone now. Her husband, her 2 sisters, even her oldest son, buried long before her. She is in many ways the last page of her family's book. And yet she is not bitter. She is tender, luminous, and filled with a love that refuses to die. Rose once had a house full of life. Sunday dinners where the table overflowed with laughter. Holidays when grandchildren raced through the halls, knocking over lamps and spilling cocoa. And no one cared because joy filled every corner. She remembers holding her baby for the first time, whispering promises into the soft hair of a child who could not yet understand her words. She remembers dancing barefoot in the kitchen with her husband on a rainy night, the radio playing a song only they loved. But time is merciless. The children grew up, the house emptied, loved ones passed. Rose now sits alone in her small room, her hands folded, listening to the sounds of other residents down the hall. And yet, if you looked into her eyes, you would not see despair. You would see oceans, oceans of memory, oceans of love, oceans of unbroken strength. Every morning, Rose writes letters, letters to people who will never read them, letters to her late husband, telling him how the roses outside remind her of the day he placed one in her hair. Letters to her sisters, recalling the mischief of their youth. Letters to her children, reminding them, wherever they are, that she loved them with a love larger than time itself. She tucks these letters into a wooden box beneath her bed. No one knows it is there. One day, when she is gone, someone will open it and find hundreds of pages filled with the purest truth. A life of love, captured in ink. One afternoon, a young nurse sits with her and asks softly, "Rose, do you ever feel sad that everyone you loved is gone?" Rose smiles, her frail hands resting on the nurse's, and she answers in a whisper that carries the weight of nearly a century, "My darling, they are not gone. They live here." She touches her chest. Every smile, every laugh, every tear, they built me. I am not empty. I am full. That is what aging is. It is being full. That night, the nurse finds Rose asleep by the window, her face turned toward the stars. The wooden box of letters rests beside her chair. The candle flickers low. The nurse feels tears in her eyes, not out of pity, but out of awe, because she realizes something the world forgets. Old age is not a curse. It is the final chorus of a song that has played for a lifetime. The camera pulls back. Rose, tiny and fragile in her chair, the glow of the candle reflecting off her peaceful face. Outside, the garden blooms, roses opening to the night air. She is no longer the young girl who once danced barefoot, nor the mother chasing children through the house. She is something greater, the sum of all her love, carried into her final years like a lantern glowing in the dark. And in that moment, her whisper drifts into eternity. Aging is not about losing those we love. It is about carrying them until the very end. They said old age was only about endings, but sometimes at the very end of the road, life gives you one more beginning. This chapter belongs to Joseph, 80 years old, a man who once believed his story was finished. His wife had passed, his children lived far away, and most days he ate breakfast alone at his kitchen table, staring at the empty chair across from him. He told himself, "This is it. My life has already been lived. What is left now is waiting." But then, one spring morning, everything changed. His daughter left her little boy, 7-year-old Noah, in his care while she worked long shifts. Joseph had not raised a child in decades. He worried he was too slow, too tired, too old. But Noah didn't see any of that. Noah saw only a grandfather, someone who told stories, who knew how to fix a broken toy, who made pancakes in funny shapes, who held his hand on the walk to school. At first, Joseph thought he was giving Noah his time. But in truth, Noah was giving Joseph back his life. One afternoon, they planted seeds together in the small garden behind Joseph's house. Joseph's back ached as he knelt in the soil, his hands clumsy and stiff. But Noah laughed, dirt on his cheeks, and said, "Grandpa, the flowers will grow because you touch them." Something inside Joseph broke open. For the first time in years, he felt necessary. He felt alive. Every evening they sat together on the porch. Noah would ask endless questions. "Grandpa, what was it like before cell phones? Did you ride a horse to school? Did you ever see the ocean?" And Joseph, instead of feeling old, felt rich. He realized he carried treasures Noah could not find in books or screens. His memories were not a burden, they were gifts. Slowly, Joseph's house filled again with laughter. Toys under the couch, drawings taped to the fridge, a small voice calling, "Grandpa!" At sunrise. Where once there was only silence, now there was music. One night, as Joseph tucked Noah into bed, the boy whispered, "Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to be just like you." Tears burned Joseph's eyes. For so long, he thought old age meant fading into nothingness. But here, in the eyes of a child, he saw himself reborn. Joseph sat in his chair by the window that night, watching Noah sleep, and whispered, "Aging is not about endings. Sometimes it is about becoming the beginning of someone else's story." The camera of our imagination lingers on Joseph's face, lined, weary, but glowing with a light that no wrinkle can hide. In the quiet of the night, he no longer feels forgotten. He feels immortal, because a piece of him now beats inside a child who will carry his love into the future. They told us aging was the slow fading of light. But what if the truth is this, that in our final years, we shine brightest, because we carry every sunrise, every sunset, every love, every loss, all inside us. It is a winter evening in Willow Creek. The streets are quiet, dusted with snow, and the world seems wrapped in silence. Inside the nursing home, the same place where Rose once sat by her candle, a group of elders gather in the common room. They do not know each other's whole stories, but they share the same truth. They have lived, they have loved, and they are still here. Margaret, who found beauty in her wrinkles, is there. Thomas, the carpenter who still remembers the weight of history, is there. Evelyn, the painter with trembling hands but blazing colors, is there. Harold, the teacher who raised 100 children through his wisdom, is there. Samuel, the soldier who turned pain into peace, is there. Rose, with her box of letters, is there. Joseph, with little Noah's drawings folded in his coat pocket, is there. Each of them sits quietly, sipping tea, staring at the snow falling outside. To the world, they are simply the elderly. To one another, they are living libraries, each wrinkle a page, each gray hair a chapter, each scar a sentence. They carry entire lifetimes within them. The nurse turns on the old record player, and soft music drifts through the room. Margaret hums along, her voice fragile but sweet. Thomas taps his cane gently to the rhythm. Evelyn sketches the shadows of the snow on a napkin, her lines shaky but alive. Harold reads aloud one of his letters, and the others listen as if they are children again, spellbound. Samuel leans back with his eyes closed, remembering faces long gone, but this time without pain. Rose smiles, her hands folded in her lap, whispering silent prayers of gratitude. Joseph watches them all, and when Noah runs in with his mother to deliver cookies, the boy climbs into his grandfather's lap, making the circle complete. And in that moment, something sacred happens. The world outside may see frailty, may see weakness, but inside this small, warm room, there is power. The power of lives fully lived, of love given and received, of decades survived. A collective truth settles in the air. Aging is not a loss. It is a gathering of all that ever mattered. Margaret breaks the silence. Her voice is soft but steady. We were told to fear these years, to hide them, to fight them. But look at us. We are still here. We are the proof that aging is beautiful. Tears shimmer in Evelyn's eyes. Samuel nods slowly. Harold whispers, "Yes." And Rose, with a voice as thin as candlelight, adds, "Aging is the privilege of the lucky." The group sits together, their breaths mingling with the faint music, the snow falling heavier outside. Each of them knows they are closer to the end than the beginning, and yet none of them feel empty. They feel full, so full of life that even death cannot erase it. The camera of our imagination pulls back one final time. Through the frosted window, we see the small group of elders glowing in the soft yellow light. They are not fading. They are shining. Shining with the beauty of everything they have carried, everything they have given, everything they have loved. And as the snow falls and the music plays, their unspoken truth drifts out into the night. Aging is not the shadow of life. It is its crown. These stories are not just about the past. They keep your own memories alive. If you want to walk this journey with us, to honor the beauty of lives well lived, then subscribe now. Because growing old is not the end. Growing old is beautiful.